From Florida's Space Coast, this is Your Career.
Welcome to Your Career. I'm Debbie Featherston, your host, and with me today are two guests who know a lot about homeschooling. With me is Susan Reynolds. She is the co-founder and owner, as well as the director of curriculum here at the Knowledge Exchange. Thank you, Susan, for joining me.
Thank you.
And as well is Christine Jasper, and you are the purchasing director here at the Knowledge Exchange. Ladies, I cannot thank you enough for taking time out of your day to talk to me about what I feel is a very important topic to many people, and that's homeschooling. And the reason that I really think that this topic has relevance to our listeners is the fact that we have individuals, families who are making some really serious decisions about their child's education, and many decide homeschooling is right for them, right?
Exactly.
And somebody in that family is going to say, I'm going to put my career on hold, I'm going to stop. So, just with that little bit of an intro for our viewers, Susan, tell us, why homeschooling?
Well, it's all about the child. The parents have felt, for whatever reason, that they are going to take on the job of homeschooling, of schooling their child. Maybe it was a bad school situation, the child was falling behind for whatever reason. It could be illness, it could be academic, or it could be they're ready to go on and the teacher just can't give them enough work to go on. Some choose to do it from the very beginning, and they're able to pass on their work ethic or their Christian values or whatever it might be. So there's all kinds of different reasons to start homeschooling, just as many as you'll find that are homeschooling now today.
Yeah.
It's a very popular choice.
There really is. I think we've been seeing an increase in homeschooling.
Definitely.
So what are some of the benefits from your perspective, Christine, Susan?
Well, the time that you're able to spend with your child, the quality time that you're able to spend with your child, I think would be number one. What about you, Susan?
Well, and it's really a flexibility of getting to choose what's important to you and your child, or what will help your child most. Maybe they don't need the pace that the school system would set, or even a book that you would choose. So they get to choose all of those. So it's really the flexibility in choosing that. The flexibility of where you're going to do the homeschooling. Is it going to be a virtual classroom? Is it going to be something that you've set up in your living room? Or is it going to be at a co-op, having other groups of kids together with another teacher or instructor? So it's just all of those choices.
I think that's fantastic. And it reminds me of my sister-in-law who homeschooled both of her sons for a period of time, right? And so not the entire, career, right? Not the right. And so that was very interesting because they took field trips, and it was really what I considered more of a blended kind of curriculum, or an academic experience, if you will.
The world is the classroom.
It was really quite interesting. I'm curious, what advice do you give to families that are considering homeschooling for the first time?
Well, realizing that you've now got to become not only the parent, but the teacher, principal, and guidance counselor, and taking all that into perspective, and then kind of letting the child know that this is a different role, and it's not just going to be maybe the same routine that you've had after school. I'm not just here to give you snacks and go over your homework. I'm assigning the work and doing that with you. So just establishing that ongoing.
Other thoughts, Christine, on that subject?
I think Susan does a workshop here called Homeschool 101, where she walks parents through what legally must be done in the state of Florida in order to homeschool your child, any forms that need to be filled out and turned in, and preparatory things for homeschool. But I think that a lot of their questions revolve around curriculum. What type of curriculum? How do I do this? Where do I start?
Yeah. I would imagine that's probably one of the most common challenges that parents would have, is the curriculum piece.
Definitely.
Well, the hesitation to even start,
Right.
how do I do this? So just letting them know that there are resources out there, there is support out there, there's a lot of other families that have chosen this option, and so it's something very popular that they can get in a lot of information.
Yeah, yeah. What are some of the core skill sets that a homeschooling educator may need to have? I mean, many are making that shift, right, from corporate America to now, instructing students in the home environment, typically, I would think. So what are some of those core skill sets?
Patience.
Patience, okay.
Flexibility.
Flexibility,
Time management, something really, your day is this lifestyle now of learning from morning chores that may be now considered character training.
Yeah, oh.
That is not necessarily an academic subject, all the way through, but just scheduling it and making it purposeful, and setting a purpose for it and then scheduling a time for it, so time management. And sometimes maybe that's, and because if you choose to homeschool a family, you've got siblings there of different ages that you're having to deal with. And so character training may be the only thing that happens that day.
Very interesting perspective there.
And I think each family needs to come up with a type of philosophy, how they're educationally, how are they going to school their child? Is it going to look like school at home, which is what I did with my kids when I started, because that's, I had been in the public school system for 10 years, so I knew that, was comfortable with that. Didn't necessarily fit, my kids, or what we were really trying to do was break away from that, do something different. So we liked the flexibility. So just knowing how to set up that time and
yeah, just really leverage it to where that it's a good experience for everyone. But what I think is really awesome about the homeschooling environment as a parent, but particularly as a homeschooling educator, right, / parent, is that things that I've done with my children growing up, and I do today with the grandchildren, become more intentional devices or opportunities for learning.
Right.
And that's something I think today, like when I'm playing games with the grandchildren, that if I know somebody's weak in reading or spelling or math, we play games, and that's a way to build them. But, being a homeschooler, which I was not, that would have been really an aha moment for me.
Right, and there are times that happens in a classroom, but like you said, I like the word intentional. You can do that intentionally with your child because you're working with them almost as a tutor would one-on-one, and you see that weakness and you can address it right away.
Yeah. I want to take a step back just a little bit and just reflect on the situation where you have a new family that's made a decision, right, or they're in this process of trying to make a decision about, right, and generally we've got dual career couples, and so somebody is, as part of this decision, going to pull back, put their career on hold, right, but they may be thinking that down the road, don't know what that looks like, 5 years, 10 years, whatever timeline, that they're going to return to their profession. What are some strategies that or approaches have you observed others using that have worked well, that's helped them to manage that?
Well, I think a lot of them kind of keep an eye on maybe what their field is. For me as a certified teacher, I do have to keep up my certification, and every 5 years do something about that. I don't know if that's what I'm going to use, and I've been in this almost 20 years now with home educating, if I'll use that when my last graduates. But I've been able to use it now during homeschooling with portfolio evaluations and offering to administrate some standardized testing, which are two of the options that homeschoolers can use to yearly get an evaluation.
And part of the documentation process with the state of Florida, right?
Right.
Okay.
So, and I think parents that are looking about either if they're interested to just do this for a season, maybe the elementary years or the middle school years or high school years, whatever the case may be, they're kind of keeping an eye on, what their career field is doing, you know, as they're out.
Yeah, that's a good point. I would think that some of them may be taking online classes, or they may be actively involved, or at least participating in some
online classes, and they may be teaching a course.
Ah, okay.
Maybe they're a musician.
Okay.
And they have a group of homeschool students that are learning the guitar, or maybe they're a chemist, and they share their love of chemistry by teaching high school chemistry to their homeschool students. So they're keeping their skills up and doing what they love to do.
Because they're going to have to read to maintain currency or just application of some of those skill sets. Yeah, I can think of others that may be, you know, participating in professional association meetings periodically, or talking to former peers, you know, just to get a sense of what are the current skill sets that are required? What are some of the trends? What are the skill sets? Where's the gap?
Yeah.
So as they get closer and closer and closer to that time period that they want to return it. The reason that comes up to me as a really major one, I look at this whole transition from going from corporate America to becoming a home educator as a career transition.
Right.
And thus the relevance for our viewers, not only to become, I mean, this is a new career for them as a homeschooling educator. Well, let's move along here a little bit and look at, you know, what are some of the common challenges that some family may encounter as they're getting started with homeschooling?
One of the things that we see when students get to a certain level of math, maybe the parent educator doesn't feel confident.
That would be my blind spot. No, it's not a blind spot, it's a weakness.
Right, when you get to up in levels beyond algebra, a lot of parents need some support there. So they have an option of taking an online class, a virtual class, or enrolling their student, or learning alongside their student with whatever it is. Chemistry, they may want to take a chemistry class if that wasn't a strength for a parent. So I think that's a challenge if they don't feel confident in what they learned at that age in that topic, then relaying that information. There is plenty of support available for parents to do it as a group or to enroll in an online course.
Yeah. So in some ways, it could be going back to that issue of curriculum that we were talking about a little earlier.
Just knowing where to start. You know, do I start my child on 4th grade skills if they're at that age, or do I back off where? And a lot of the curriculum that we found have online placement tests. So they want you to be in the right place when you buy their book. So they're offering free online placement tests. You can just give your child that test and you can see where they'll fit in for which book.
Wonderful. I had no idea that was available, but how invaluable, right?
Great. Exactly.
Yeah, perfect. Well, are there other kinds of challenges that come up? Or is the most common maybe the question of curriculum?
Well, you know, I talked about the educational philosophy. You know, for some, curriculum is what they come across in the field trips or what their child's interest in. So it's all choosing how you choose to learn. Maybe part of it is textbook or workbooks, and some of it is hands-on learning. You know, getting to the museums and taking a course there, or coming to a class at the Knowledge Exchange. So it's just finding someone, and we like to have a place where someone with a passion to teach that skill that they want to keep fresh. They're going to share it now with a child or a classroom full of the homeschooling children. So, you know, just finding those places to plug in.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's invaluable. Well, we've got some curriculum in front of us, and that's one of the things I think about. If I were going into homeschooling, it would be, you know, I'm very well organized, I'm structured, I bring that with me from my corporate environment, right? That's just part of how I'm built. So for me, one of the big questions would be, how do I put a curriculum together? If I've got a 3rd grader versus a 7th grader or whatever, 6th grader, you know, how do I put that curriculum together? What pointers would you give?
Well, one of the things that you learn about your child fairly soon when you're working with them is they may or may not have the same learning style that you have. You being the organized person probably like to check off a list like I do. I did lesson plans, love doing those. And sure enough, I have a child that just wants to wing it, or you just tell them and direct them. I can read to them, and they'd rather get the information that way than go read it for themselves. Those types of things. So learning kind of what the challenge is for how your child learns best, and working on those that maybe not be their strongest point. But certainly when they're younger, as in the elementary ages, they're a lot more hands-on learning, manipulatives, moving things around. Of course, being active and learning that way. You've got an active play.
I do. It's a parachute, and you think, what are you going to do with a parachute? But there are a lot of skills. They're going to learn teamwork, because they all have to lift it at the same time and drop it at the same time, so they're going to learn that. They're going to learn counting, because 1, 2. There are colored balls that you can put in the middle of your parachute, and you can count them, and you can learn about gravity, and you can talk about the colors. So there's a lot of language skills. So you're outdoors, you're getting some exercise, and all those skills are coming into play.
Right.
So if you look at a parachute as a parachute, I don't know, that's not much, but there's a whole lot that you can do with it, and there will be laughter. They won't know that they're learning. This is one of those.
And siblings will take part in that. I mean, it's not just, you've got the whole family involved in that.
Yeah, I could see that. I'd see it as a team building kind of initiative, and how you get along and interact with others, and like you said, the communication and language,
right? All of
problem
that.
solving to, hey, get it with,
right?
I'm off the ground.
And then, as you're coming, as the child is getting older, the middle school age, you're allowing the child to do more things, or some things independently, that you don't need to sit right there with them, or perhaps they're now doing it maybe with a DVD teacher, and you're not sitting there actually giving them all of the information. And then as they move to high schoolers, you're a really big transition from being the teacher to a facilitator. You're helping them now get those skills of time management, scheduling, because they've got other things going on. One of the big myths out there about homeschoolers is they're not socialized.
Oh dear.
And it couldn't be farther from the truth. They've got tons of friends, and they meet them in all kinds of different places, the field trips, and now it's multi-age, because they are meeting families. And my children not only know their age group, but they know all their younger siblings or older siblings, or whatever the case might be. And so I think they're really interacting with those children of all ages when they go on a field trip or wherever it might be. And we get, a couple of families together, get a group discount, and still able to take them to the theater, museums, and other things like that.
That's pretty cool. And they just continue to grow and learn. And so, curriculum, we have a variety of materials here. Share with me, really, as the director of curriculum, I'm leaning on you to share with us a little bit, right? If I'm a parent of let's say a third grader. What might you recommend?
Well, we don't have everything available right here on the table, but there is a lot out there. The resources are endless. The parent can come up with some things, just as you do, taking a game off the shelf and making it into a learning game.
Okay.
But also, as far as the books, getting to some of the books, there's all kinds of different books out there. This is a very unique math book. If you were to look at it, it doesn't have just rows and rows of numbers and problems to do. It's actually a narrative of a boy's life. And so this starts with the elementary and actually goes all the way through statistics and college calculus, and again, doing the same type of thing. Fred comes across things in his life that he applies math. If he's changing a bicycle tire and needs a certain size wrench and needs to know equivalent fractions because he has one size wrench and wants to know if it's the same as whatever he has on his bicycle, that's all explained in there. If he's planting a victory garden, the kids learn a little bit about what that actually was. has, and then how he can multiply and space out, what he has for vegetables and how much volume of soil he needs, and it's all done as part of this narrative. So that's for a child that learns that way, may not learn in a black and white environment.
Right. Well, what I like about it is that it's applying it to some real world issues.
It's real world applied math.
Real world.
No abstract.
Yeah, absolutely. The other thing that I like about it is the fact that it will introduce them to some different activities that it may have implication for different careers, in the future. So, I mean, right?
Right. Yes. I mean, Fred is a 6-year-old.
Five.
Five as he goes through the book.
He stays 5 through college, by the way. But Fred Goss actually was a mathematician, and the writer of these books would tell his daughter stories about Fred on the way to school, and from teaching his high school math class. And so one day she said to him, "Will you write it down in a book?" So the rest is history. He has the whole series, but it's all, at the end of the day, the child cannot say to you, "I'll never use this." This is a math that they will use in their lives. So yeah, it's great.
Wow. Go ahead.
So, well, there's, all the subjects are covered. Certainly, workbooks for math and are available, but there's the same thing for the things for writing or reading. Of course, the library is a great resource for that as well. There's some faith-based science that's out there. This can be used. This one is actually a unique product in that it's multi-age. So, with your family,
interesting.
You can have them all listen to the material each day as a household items experiment, and then they've got questions leveled for each grade that you may have.
That's impressive.
Brilliant.
That it would be. I've never heard of a book like that.
These are new.
That's great.
So.
And I see you have a book on entrepreneurship.
Yes. So really, homeschooling affords the time because although it's a lifestyle of learning, the academics are just the tip of the iceberg and really don't take that long because we're no longer taking attendance, standing in line for lunches and those types of things because we're incorporating that into our day. So you can see what the children are interested in and see maybe a business application for that. So homeschooling with entrepreneurism is something that we promote a lot here. Having our own family.
Big on right. You do. You have your family business and everybody's involved. But what a richness, to be able to give them exposure to entrepreneurship. It's not going to be right for every individual, but there's so many skills.
Well, and so many skills that would transfer all the way across. So this curriculum has something for teens, how to set up a micro business, and it includes a workbook and some other resources that they can use for that, along with a curriculum that others can use. Again, this has a teacher's manual and a student book.
Eliminate the leadership. I love the title. Nurturing entrepreneurs. We need to do that in this country. I think that's really vital.
I think that's,
I have one question. We've got about 3 minutes or so before we wrap, and that really is near and dear to my heart, and I think is really important to anyone that's considering homeschooling, and that is, what are the critical steps that you see that a student should take in preparing for their career planning?
Exploring that option, whether it be through, all 3 of my teenagers have used dual enrollment. The Florida universities allow students to, for homeschoolers, at no cost, take the class. They do pay for the textbooks if they can pass the proficiency test to enroll in the class and reading, math, and writing. And after that, they kind of explore. My son would take, more engineering, mechanical type classes, where my daughter's first choice was, public speaking and communications classes.
Very good.
And so, and I knew that about them. I knew those were going to be different choices. And, but through that, they've been able to explore, well, what, that big field of engineering, how can we make that smaller?
Right.
Looking
That's
at,
really broad.
looking at circuit fundamentals.
Sure.
Okay, looking at electrical engineering. Take that class, maybe that's not quite right. Take that early childhood class because you love kids, and my oldest daughter was offering dance classes for years. And but the early education was not quite the right fit.
Right.
But she's now looking at counseling and psychology. So just having that time to kind of explore during that dual enrollment, and the entrepreneur, setting up a business or classes. And doing those types of things.
Yeah, they get some practical hands-on experience that really gives them, I think, a little bit of an advantage.
And homeschoolers not only are dealing with siblings and families, but they're also dealing more with adults.
Yeah.
Because the other kids are in school.
That's true.
So if they go to the library, they're not in a library, with other kids. They're talking and meeting with the librarian. So they're asking them the questions. So it just gives them, and we encourage that, some opportunities to talk with adults about things. I know when my daughter first started doing her dance classes, she was the one who could tell the parents what they needed for costumes, when rehearsal was, and when it was not going to be. I also had her schedule the rooms with whoever the administrator of the building before we had this place for her to do it.
That's fantastic.
So made it a responsibility for her to do.
Yeah. Well, this has been wonderful, and I know that there's tons of other, I call them toys.
Right.
But they really do supplement the learning,
Absolutely.
and there's great resources. Well, thank you so much both.
Thank you.
Susan Reynolds and Christine Jaspers for being here with me today and talking about homeschooling. So I'm Debbie Featherston, your host, and on behalf of everyone here on the set and all my guests, thank you for watching, and remember, be career happy.
More information about this program is available online at millermediagroup.org.